I just got the beef, so it's being recorded.
All right, cool. This is the first time doing this.
Yeah.
All right. Let me quote the questions. So we're we're gonna keep the recording. I don't know what direction we're gonna put the um article in. I kind of just want to do the interview, and then we will like put it. We will give it like a timeline appropriately, like in the final draft. Anyway, I just want to like talk and figure out the questions.
Yeah, and there's like AI tools too. I know that you could like throw it all in and it like almost makes the story like 80% there for you.
Yeah, honestly, the AI tools, like I don't want them to control the narrative on the stories
Yeah.
because like I explicitly want us to make the content obviously made by humans. Like one of the core pillars is to literally have it be so obviously made by artisans that the algorithm just has to promote it.
Oh,
Um
right.
so it's yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like but I especially early on like I don't want the AI to do the work for me because that's really where the art is. Um
Yeah, yeah.
But let's start the interview.
Sounds good.
So, um, what I know is you were working with consumer brands and you were, I guess, figuring out life and you're like through your experience, you're like, okay, I can do this on my own. Um, I kind of want to know uh where it started as an employee. You're like, okay, you went from employee working for someone, which a lot of people do, and then going into entrepreneurship. So, you know, wherever you think is good to start, just
Yeah. Yeah, so, there's I've worked in consumer goods and done kind of, progressively more complicated and gotten progressively, more advanced roles. And there's kind of something that happens when you hit like 10, 12, maybe 15 years into your career, maybe 8 years, but there's this like second ceiling. And I see it with like my friends, I see it with a lot of people around my same age where you get to this point and you're like, do I coast? Do I, what do I do next? Where you've kind of hit that level. Maybe your title is senior director or VP. My title is VP of operations. And it's sort of where do I go from there? COO, which is kind of like could almost be a lateral move. And what do I do? So I was at that point in my career where I had nowhere else to go, but I kinda had that drive or I wanted to do something more. I wanted to learn something, and there aren't really those opportunities, especially I was working with mid-sized companies, sub 200 million in revenue. So there isn't, another division I could move to, which is one of the things that was really driving me to entrepreneurship. Like, I thought I had, enough experience. I wanted to take that leap, both for professional fulfillment, but also just because I didn't want to get bored, kind of doing that same thing over and over again. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you kind of have to have that drive. So I think that's one of the biggest things is like you have to have that drive that like I feel stuck here, I feel stifled, and I want to jump out of it to especially get over like the big hurdles of risk that you're gonna have to take on.
okay, that's cool. That's cool. So that's cool. So I think what you went through is the fact that you literally maxed out your capacity as a person who works at a company, and
Yeah, yeah, where I was seeing was, you hit this barrier, and it's a questions of, do I need to get an MBA, to become the president of some other organization? Do I need to do this? And it's a lot of like hypotheticals of if I do this, maybe something will happen. And it's like an MBA, especially as I've seen over the years, like an MBA doesn't guarantee you anything. Like an extra degree doesn't guarantee you anything. And a lot of it is just luck. So in a way, like entrepreneurship is, in my mind, kind of like taking the bull by the horns and making your own luck. Uh, especially, after 10 years, you kind of see like that's the only way that, you can try to change your future.
that's cool. Yeah, no, I agree because yeah, actually you said something interesting where it's even as an employee there's still uncertainty, and that's in trying to climb a corporate ladder.
Exactly. Like something can always happen. Like right now there's tariffs and in consumer goods, tariffs are completely upending almost everything, pricing, profit, margin. So like what happens with that? Almost every company that, in the sectors that I've worked at are, being really lean, which is kind of scary, especially when you're sitting there and you're like, I, even more so, you don't control your own destiny.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I like this because I worked as an employee a few times. Like in the start of my career, but like I've always been an entrepreneur. My plan was to work at a company and do my side hustle on the side and just try and like move the money into the side hustle. But then life and the world just kind of has a different plan.
It
Um,
never works as smooth as your plan comes out to.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like it's better to just do than to plan. But yeah, no, I think this is a very common thing amongst people who want to start their own business. So let's move to the part where you actually start taking action.
Yeah.
You were okay. You were working. We got it. All right. Employee stuck. Not happy. No, you have more potential. How do you realize it? What 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 steps did you start taking to jump? Because a lot of people, you're kind of indoctrinated into a system where it's very clear in America. You go to school, you collect that, and then you get a job, and now you're kind of forced to work in the matrix pretty much. So to kind of like become to kind of like realize your maximum potential, which you're doing through entrepreneurship, what steps did you start to take?
You so when you're preparing to kind of make that big leap, it's listing out, and this took actually weeks, months even, all the reasons why a regular 9 to 5 job is safe. So, on a personal level, it's managing all the HR stuff, like payroll and health insurance and things like that. So that is probably one of the first things that you want to do is you have to figure out how are you going to get health insurance? How are you going to keep the lights on at home and stuff like that? So it'd start with that. Like if you could figure those things out, because you're still going to have to live, then it makes that leap a little bit easier. So for me, I think part of like almost a cheat code is my partner is still working full time. So one of the things that we did probably 6 months before any of this started was moved our health insurance over to him and kind of like had that, that plan for, what happens if, my job, if I leave my job, we go into this full time. Now we've got like health insurance covered. It's looking at your finances. I mean, I think that's a big thing of like the reality is you probably don't have this massive trust fund. You probably don't have a huge investor that's like giving you a blank check. And even if you do have an investor, you're going to have to be controlled with it. So how much personal risk are you willing to take? For us, luckily we didn't have credit card debt and you can get scrappy with it. Like take out a zero interest credit card for, 12 months. That's what we did. We did that, signed up for for some services like Veeam. That helps you like just basically use that credit card money to like pay for different bills and made this plan to use that zero interest credit card that we knew that we could cover if everything went to shit. We could cover it if we need to, but this gives us this like 12 months of like free money basically to establish the company, to, spend the $900 to get that in LLC, doing all that foundational work. And there are a lot of tools out there. You just kind of have to look for it. It might not be the traditional way, but you kind of have to like hustle a little bit. So, zero just credit card, use credit card points, whatever you can to kind of like minimize your, personal risk and exposure. So once you get that set up, it's sort of like, you yourself are safe. So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like you make sure that you're comfortable as much as you can. You'll, stay healthy, you'll be able to eat. Then like make that little buffer of like, hey, we can do this. We've got some money behind it. It makes that leap that much easier. And so then the final things of like what the final pieces of what reasons why a 9 to 5 feels safe. There's stuff like your computer, IT stuff, even just making space. Once you've taken those big things, you've taken those under control, it's a lot easier to then figure out like, hey, how am I going to make a desk in my apartment or in my house? How am I going to make space for some inventory? Then those things seem surmountable. So for me, it's taking care of the big things first. I think it's personal and then chipping away at everything else. So when it gets to that point of like, for us, where we first had inventory coming in, that seemed like an easy task. But if you're trying to tackle it all at once, like how do I get inventory? How do I set up my email account and how am I going to pay for my health insurance? You kind of get overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah. I like the approach. And I feel like as you were putting it together, you were feeling uncertain because you were creating a new base. And I like how you described it as following Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because it really is important to have the psychological, I don't know if the word is safety or foundation on what you're doing. And I think what you shared is actually a good framework for someone who's looking to become an entrepreneur, on or an employee at the current moment. Um, I'm curious, w- were there any habits that you had to forego and replace with new ones? Like, have you focused on like fitness, on reading? Like, is there things you changed about yourself?
Um, some of a couple habits I've tried to like actually start that are healthier. A lot of it have to do with like eating and food. Like, when I was working a 9 to 5, it was a lot of, like, just get out of the door in the morning, maybe have a cup of coffee, and then there's coffee in the office. I'll grab a bagel or, grab a bite on the way in if you need it. I'd leave for lunch whenever, and that's one thing that I've tried to get more structured with my own, after starting my own thing with trying to wake up, have a glass of water, then have some coffee, plan to have oatmeal, plan to have some sort of breakfast and kind of leave that stuff less up to chance. I've been doing more meal prep, since then, partially because I'm at home more often. I'm not, away at an office. But that sort of structure has helped because then I've been finding myself like filling out the rest of the day of like, hey, so I do breakfast, then I'll make a to-do list, lunch hits, and then I'll work on like email marketing or something like that. And it kind of like it's building out my schedule around those, like, set times, and again, it's, like, back to, like we were saying, like, hierarchy of needs, like, you've gotta eat. You can't survive off, coffee all the time, and you do your best work when you take care of that kinda stuff, so, I think that's probably one of the biggest things is, like, not leaving stuff like food and eating and meals and plan like, up in the air. You're kind of, like, purposefully planning that out also helps then you're eating healthy and you're not, like, ordering McDonald's every day kind of thing, when you put it to chance.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, like that actually is a benefit of entrepreneurship is you can kind of control your health a little more because
Yeah.
you're you're not constrained to an office like a 9 to 5 structure, which it's hard to be healthy in that actually.
Yeah, and there's definitely little things of like, depending on what you're doing in your 9 to 5, even though I was in ops and consumer goods, like, you get invited to dinners, and it's like, you go out to dinner and maybe a vendor is taking you out, and it's like, you feel almost, like, pressured into, like it's, almost always feel pressured into, like, ordering more food, like, getting an appetizer when I'm not that hungry, and they're ordering another drink, and they're being really, really generous with it, but those sort of, like, work dinners, they're not healthy. It's never at, like, a Sweetgreen, with a it is not usually a salad option.
That's funny.
They're
Yeah, I've heard this a lot actually. In any industry, people are like, "Man, these work dinners." It's like, dude, I know, I get it. You like feel obligated to indulge. It's not easy.
like, if your boss is indulging, you're indulging kind of thing, and, like, I think that's one thing that does change is it's easier to say it's like when you're a founder, you could go to be like, "You know what? I'm gonna have a club soda right now," even when you do have to go to an event. It seems almost easier to say that kinda stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that's true. That's true. It is. Yeah, and this goes to your point on taking kind of like life, like the bull by the horns of life, and just saying like, you know what, I'm I control what I eat, which is actually pretty sick. I didn't even think about it in this
Yeah.
way. Um, so look, tell me about this magical Slovenian water, um,
Oh, yeah.
and how that kind of intertwined with your journey into taking the leap into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so because I've had that the background of being able to sell products, I'm kind of always been, especially for the last 5 years, like, been on the lookout for what is that product? Is there a product I believe in that I could start, like, pushing and selling? So, where it really started was we got a bottle of this Slovenian water that came from a spring, and I say a bottle of water, but it's really a nutritional supplement because it's so, like, heavy with minerals. So, we got this bottle. It's like it was $6, so it's pretty expensive, hard to find, and drank it one night, just kind of on a whim, like, "Hey, this is crazy at the grocery store." Drank it, and then we're like, "Whoa, we really like how this makes us feel." Over the next couple nights, it was like anxiety went down, slept a little bit better, kinda helped with, like, muscle cramping after working out, so started to feel the benefits, but the fact was that it was really hard to find and expensive, and when we ran out of the supply, it's like, I can't import this from Slovenia. It's like a bottle of water. It'd be crazy expensive. We started tinkering and playing around with, could we make this? Is there a way to make this into a powder? And ordered from like 17 different websites. We got a jewelry scale to measure stuff out. We were like shaking it in mason jars in our apartment. We had an electric grinder to, like unify the shape until we were like, because we were trying to figure out how can we get these benefits that we really like permanently, because it's impossible to keep this product around. And then once we got kind of got the powder, then that was that moment that like clicked where it was, oh, wait, I've been looking for a product that maybe we could sell. Maybe there's a place in the market. We like this. We use it. We're consumers. We pay for it. Where do we go from here? And had the product, then just started, telling people about it, worked with a chemist and a doctor to make sure that, elementally it was it was going to do what we want in terms of like minerals and electrolytes in the water. Talked with a doctor to make sure that it's as like simple and clean as possible, fits into almost, any diet. Because our idea is that the product should kind of supplement your life. You don't have to like change your life for it. Because there's like so many wellness products out there where they tell you like you have to like change your lifestyle. This is supposed to be to fit in with pretty much any lifestyle, any, diet that we could imagine. And that's why, the product is so like we try to keep it as clean and simple as possible. So once we did that, it was like, oh, now I've got to find a factory because we can't, make this in our apartment. And that was another whole journey of learning about the supplement industry and learning about how the stuff is manufactured. And like, there's crazy stuff that, I mean, it's in politics and in the news now, but talking with a factory in the US and finding out that there's almost no regulation. And the thing that kind of scared me the most was talking to a factory like local in New York, and they were going to charge us for heavy metal testing to make sure that and they were also like they wanted to order all the supplies themselves. And I remember telling them like, Why would I, if you're purchasing the supplies, why do I have to pay for there to be heavy metal testing? And then who are you buying from if that's even a risk?" So that led us to kind of like an informal kind of like, we're tiny, but it was like an informal vendor guide, like vendor responsibilities, that what we thought were important with a partner. And it was stuff like, the partner believing in their supply chain. That was super key. So
The partner
then
what
we
in the
started.
supply chain?
I'm sorry?
The partner what in the supply chain? Like transparency? Is that what you said?
Yeah, transparency that the partner believes in their supply chain, that the partner isn't just like ordering from wherever, buying products from wherever, that like everything was kind of traceable. And it was putting into words things like traceability and trust, and testing and cleanliness that like I didn't think I'd have to do. I thought, working with a well-known factory in the US would cover all those bases already. But after having a few calls, it was like, no. And on the startup side too, a couple contract manufacturers that we talked to wanted to basically give us a better price, but they wanted like a permanent percentage of our business or some kind of like royalty kind of thing. It's the kind of the deal that you see on Shark Tank a lot with Kevin O'Leary, like he always wants like 4%. And for me, like that kind of stuff is also terrifying where it's like, you want me to do all the work, but you get 4%? No way.
Yeah, no, well, this is I I personally have gotten uh, more advanced in the business relationships I have, and that there's no HR in the business world. Like when you do deals with people, they're usually bigger than you,
Yeah.
um, and there's no guide. There are things on the internet, but there's nothing honest because business changes in the moment. Um,
And you have
and
to be your own best advocate.
yeah, yeah, like this is like this deal that you're proposing where someone wants a royalty off all the work you did. It's preposterous. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. Um, but I want to, and this is great by the way. Like all this I wrote down. I think it speaks a lot to the product. Um, and I'm gonna put it in the article. Um, it speaks a lot to the product. It's good advertising. I'll throw it in there. Honestly, this is what StarvingHustler is gonna like grow into. But
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about how how you use ChatGPT to kind of reverse engineer the magical Slovenia water, because I think it's actually a good point in this is like one of the first consumer products that was born through AI. At least thought we're publicizing, and I'm kind of curious. Like, tell me about the approach you took.
Yeah, so it's and that's how it started was we had the bottled water, and it was about 2 years ago now, so right when ChatGPT was kind of first coming out, like, bleeding edge adoption, and we plugged it in, basically saying, "Hey, here's the water, here's what we think is in it, um, go analyze a bunch of websites, and could you create a formula that basically could you give us a shopping list of what we'd have to buy to bring into our house, like stuff that we can get that isn't like an industrial, like registered, unsafe, everything has to be food safe, and products that we can get to our apartment and make that shopping list." It actually started almost as a joke, like, could this even happen? And then it didn't give us a great answer. So there's a lot of refining, kind of like what people have to do. Like now we're used to like prompt engineering kind of thing. We were using Google Gemini and ChatGPT one night, just playing around, and then eventually it did it. So we got this response back, and it was order this product from this website, this product from this website, and AI found stuff all over the place, like some of the ingredients that we used are used in molecular gastronomy. So it's, food safe stuff that you wouldn't even think about. So it's finding like really interesting sources because we weren't a factory, but it's all kind of out there. And pretty much just took it because we were just testing it on ourselves, trusted it. So went, bought all this stuff. Nothing was crazy expensive. So it wasn't like gold leaf or anything, like that was, thousands of dollars a pound. So we're like, all right, let's just do this. And luckily the, minimum order quantities weren't crazy high. I do have to say we've got like a massive bag of sodium bicarbonate somewhere. It's like 5 pounds that we probably shouldn't have bought that much, but did that. And then just started kind of blending it in our apartment, tested it on ourselves, like mixed it up, mixed it with water, drank it, we were fine, felt, a little bit of the benefits, and used that as like the baseline of, hey, this is where we could go with it. One of the things that I like about that approach, and especially after in retrospect, like understanding how factories work, a lot of supplements, especially like hydration things and stuff that we're doing, there's a preformed like way of doing it that almost every factory has, where a lot of very similar products that kind of get like powders that get packaged. It's all the exact same thing, more or less. And the only question is if what fake flavoring you're using, like what chemicals you're putting into it. And that's about it. Or what sugar or sugar substitute you're putting into it. And the products are all almost identical. Well, and from our approach, and this is another thing, like going with the factories, some factories didn't want to work with us because they were like, we'd have to actually develop this product. It's not just a copycat. And so because this approach was almost like it almost helped us be more pure, in my mind, by using AI as like that foundational point. So we had a unique formula that then we were able to refine with professionals rather than being told this is what it has to be. And you know, a lot of the factors in that pre-established formula, like it has stuff in it. And they wanted to use things like silicon dioxide, which is just a filler. It's actually made of sand, basically. And they included a lot of that because that's like the industry standard, or it makes things easier for them.
So you're
We get a
saying,
harder, yeah.
so you're saying there's like three or four supplement factories, and they essentially have the formula, and they give you the option to resell it. and essentially all you're doing is adding like two or three customizations to the whole thing.
Pretty much, and there's a lot of industries in the US where, especially in direct to consumer brands, where if you dig far deep enough, there's like 5 factories that actually make it. So cosmetics are that way too, supplements are that way. Like there's a bunch of factories in Utah that all do the same thing. There's one on Long Island. A lot of them are in the West. Utah, for some reason, has a lot of like vitamin and supplement manufacturing. But if you trace it, it all comes back from to that same kind of like mega complex. And those are the same people that are like totally willing for you to like slap your brand on it, but there's not actually anything unique or novel about it. It's the same thing, just repackaged and it's a different person selling a different Facebook ad, basically.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's like, uh, I mean, yeah, that's a lot of businesses like that. It's things have gotten consolidated. And I think the interesting part is you kind of found the machine and you wanted to customize it, which is I think why it was important for you to find a factory that you could partner with on making the supplement. Um, I'm curious, and then we'll do the questions on entrepreneurship. Um, I'm curious. How did you go about navigating the deal? Because this was you went from working at a company, building your base. Okay, you have your psychological foundation, and now you're making deals with factories. So I'm curious how you approached these partnerships.
It because we were small and had sort of a unique plan, it limited kind of what it quickly filtered, I guess, filtered out a lot of vendors. I created sort of a almost a prompt with saying like, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is what's in it." One thing that, I was quickly not very scared about like this formula in terms of like, I would share it, pretty fairly openly, like sign an NDA, here's the formula. Um, Partially, especially for the like American factories that I talked to, because none of them really wanted to do it or they wanted to heavily change it and they kind of didn't get our vision. It was a pretty quick like filter out. Um, the factory that we ended up going with is in Slovenia. Got really lucky. And it was a journey of trust for both of us where they were a relatively new factory. Also hadn't sold in the US before. So they had all the EU regulations, which are, harder. So it was kind of a paperwork formality, but they had to, get FDA certified, and plan all of that. And they were kind of testing the waters with us to make sure like, are we actually going to place a PO? And then also, who the heck are you? Reaching out, kind of cold. Um, you know, and even that was one Slovenian factory declined to work with us and said, "Oh, actually, I know a guy who's just getting started. Maybe you could work with him." And even then, with that person, the first thing I almost got was a WhatsApp message saying, "Who are you? Why?" And I had to have a call. I was actually away on a work trip, so I had a call at like 6 a.m. with somebody just explaining like, "No, I'm real." And I had to explain like how I even knew what Slovenia was. I had to mention like where my cousins were from, and drop like names of towns, and then they realized, okay, like maybe we can trust you. And then from there, it worked out really well with, um, they were just doing the sort of like molecular analysis and testing and like, doing the really good like ISO standard certifications and stuff that we were hoping to get from a factory. They got it too. Like they're trying to go for like a higher end, clean product line. So it was, I guess all of that said, I've been rambling. It's almost like dating in a marriage in a way, where it was like we had to test the water, see if we have the same values as each other, and then slowly deepen the relationship. And it was a lot of, I guess, talking about factories and contract manufacturing. It was a lot of that like really bad first dates. You find
Yeah,
out that
yeah, it's cool.
yeah, you find out that like they don't have control over their sugar sources and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It sounds like you were just honest in your approach, and things just work out pretty much in everyone's favor, simply because of you know just the way that you played the game.
It yeah, it took probably 4 to 6 months longer. because we did it this way. We didn't just jump on, the first, we tried to stick to values and not just jump with the first factory that gave us a competitive quote.
Yeah, no, I actually really like the product. I use it after the gym. I I spend a lot of time in the sauna, and it actually really helps after the sauna because you have no nutrients in your body. And I went to cardiologist, and he's like, "Dude, you just need magnesium." I was like, "Okay." Um,
Yeah.
and it's actually a great product. Like I honestly feel good like after using it. And that's not sponsored. That's just like I'm telling you.
Yeah, and thank you for trying it. Yeah, and it's like, we've been really working on, like, refining the messaging and realizing that, like, so many people are buying products like liquid, hydration multipliers, whatever you wanna call it, and it tastes like candy, and they don't realize that all you're getting is, like, sugar and a little bit of salt and flavoring, and our product is sort of like nutrients first and just to try to make it like the whole idea is that you get the effect, quick, without covering it up with like, yeah, if you have a fistful of sugar, you feel better, but like that doesn't help you at all, kind of thing. So
Yeah,
thank you
no,
for trying it.
no, it's good, it's good. What we just want to feedback. When I first tried it, I didn't expect it to be as salty as it is. Which I understand actually now that it's magnesium and it's meant to be like salty. I actually mix it with lemon juice, and it helps a lot to kind of balance out the salt. Um, and I don't know, like it's really good actually. Like I still take it. I'm just sharing the feedback because like I was trying it. I was like, dude, just from like a culinary perspective, if you add like acidity, it'll reduce the salt strength. Um, and I don't know if you could do like guides or like stuff like it. I know you have a certain demographic right now who really enjoys it. But if you were looking at the fitness space, like I would totally do a guide like just on like lemon, adding like lemon to it, just like fun,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it would it if almost in a way, what we ended up with is like a base product that if once we get some more sales, like to add on, is um for somebody who's using it as a, like, post-fitness hydration thing, adding some more lemon. So it's, and, this is probably not the point of the interview, but, like, so when you add more lemon and, like, stable lemon powder, you have to balance that, because you add that citric acid to it. You usually have to balance that with additional sweetness. And
Oh,
this so basically, if we added more lemon, we'd have to add sugar to it, and the product right now is sugar-free.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
so if you add fresh lemon juice, you kinda get because that will have some natural sugars in it, and it'll taste really good. It also works really good with, like, cold sparkling water. Actually tastes the best that
Oh
way.
really?
Yeah. But sort of like the next product we were thinking about, like and we almost do it almost like we shouldn't even say it's lemon, it's almost like unflavored in a way. Um so the next product, could be like we do like xylitol and sugar together with like a berry flavor, and then we could add, some other products to it. But then that for somebody going for like the zero sugar thing, kind of like yeah, there's space to really expand the product lineup. I
Yeah,
totally hear what
yeah.
you're saying.
No, I like the product. Like it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. I was just like, when I first tried it, I was like, oh, I need to take this much more concentrated. But like the effects are great. Like it actually like it works. Uh,
Yeah.
which yeah, it's
wh-
cool.
What's what's been wild is because in a way we've accidentally created like almost like a blank slate where like you're adding lemon juice and you want like more concentrated. Some people like it like super diluted. Like my sister puts it in like on almost she basically like she wants to have like I don't know whatever big Nalgene thing is or whatever Yeti. She'll put which is probably like 32 ounces, and she likes it like that. She can't stand it if it's concentrated. And I might have told you like I've got another friend who puts it in a vodka soda like to help her sleep. Like it's been it's been, yeah, really kind of, like, interesting and fun to hear how people do take it. Like, my friend Alex puts it in hot green tea, which to me sounds gross, but he likes it. So
That's cool. I get. It sounds like you figured out the consumer end of the
yeah.
like of the product. That's cool. Yeah,
Right.
I'm no, yeah. It's like it's growing the company. Like this is the early stages. You'll get this feedback, um, and you as the entrepreneur are the ones who decide what you like and what you don't, and then people love it. So that's
Yeah,
like
and
the
it's
good part about
all
it.
yeah, it's all learning about how people use it. You kind of have to get the product out there before you get real feedback. I guess this is going back to the entrepreneur thing where like at some point, you know, my dad says you have to shit or get off the pot. Like at some point you have to launch the product and you're never like the product development cycles, like eventually you have to sell it. And then it's all about just improving on it. Um, there's this is from earlier in my career, but we had an egg cooker that and now has sold tens of millions of units. It's huge on Amazon, sold on QVC, but the first iteration of the product actually failed miserably, not because the product itself was bad, but it was because the egg cooker like steams eggs and it leaves a residue on the bottom of the heating element and didn't control for the fact that a lot of people have hard water or like really, water that leaves a residue. So they thought that the product was rusting because that's just what happens when their water was boiled. And so we had to put inserts that said to basically clean it. It's stainless steel, wipe it down. It's not rust. Don't be scared of it. And the return rate going from like, I think it was like 35 or 40% down to below 5%. Just also that
Wow.
little thing. So it's just learning, we could have tested that a million times, probably would have never gotten that feedback, and so I kinda took that lesson with, just in terms of product development of, like, you just have to iterate and constantly improve. You'll never get it right first time,
Yeah.
unless you're Unilever and you have, like, $14 billion.
Yeah, but no. You have a good point. The consumer feedback is critical because um you need to just either make the product better or to get more sales or to fix something. Like you want feedback.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
and it's also super key with, like, marketing. Like, one of the first things we tested was this as a hangover helper, which it can. If you take it at night before you go to bed, or if you take it first thing in the morning, it will like lessen almost all the symptoms. But what we found was because almost everybody who has hangovers has tried a product like that before. There's no trust. So the amount of like money that we'd have to spend to get over that consumer mistrust just isn't worth it. So I kind of have abandoned that as an anchor.
Yeah.
But it works on the marketing side too. Like you can market, or, you have to learn how to market, a product, on your own sort of.
No, that's cool. Cool. I think I have a path to profitability. It
Yeah.
feels like. So let's end it off with these entrepreneurship questions.
Yeah.
And the first one is what have you heard about entrepreneurship that turned out to be fake? And the second one is what did you not expect when you became a full time entrepreneur? So however you want to answer those, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing what the biggest lie I think I was told when I've heard by either like entrepreneurs speak or even from old bosses is that once you start your own company, you get to control your time and control your calendar, which is true in a way. Like you can always say no to a meeting, and you don't have a boss to say no to, but you're you're tied sorry, I gotta, you're tied to your vendors, you're tied to people that you need to talk to, and in a way, you as a smaller startup, you gotta meet, your agency or, whoever, you gotta meet to wherever they are, so, and you might have to hop on a call at 6 a.m. or work late until 7 or 8 p.m. So that, like, idea of entrepreneurship is, like, pure freedom and every day is your own day, and you can wake up at 6 a.m. and meditate and, you completely control everything. It's not entirely true. You really have to, like, go with the flow and, go where, take meetings when you need to. And the other thing with that is it's also like you have these weird days, and you've probably experienced this where like you're super busy. Like you've got a day and you've got like 14 meetings, it's nuts. And then you might have 2 days with nothing. And it like causes this like fear and anxiety of like, this is all falling apart. Like what do I do? Like I'm not getting as many orders.
That was smart.
And so yeah. Yeah. And it's that fear of like, "Oh, we put something out, we put it on social media, we did all this development, and we get a lot of likes," and your second post completely fails, and TikTok, their AI thing censors it, and you're like, "What the heck?" And so you go through these highs and lows, so, I think that, yeah, so that was one of the things is just like you don't ever control your calendar. Um Completely. And then, for one of the things that surprised me, and I'd actually be interested in your opinion on this too, is, how lonely it can be. Especially if you're doing something you don't have a big team, you're doing it alone, and some days it's almost like, I wish somebody would just tell me what to do, which is exactly the opposite of why you wanna get into entrepreneurship, but sometimes that decision fatigue just really gets to you, and you don't have happy hours, you don't have coworkers, even just grabbing a cup of coffee with, going for a walk with a coworker and, like, venting. You're kind of alone, and the people you could vent to, you really can't, your vendors, your suppliers. And so that was one of the things with I was surprised at how lonely it could be on some of those days, especially that are slower, and how important it is to kind of seek out, friends, old coworkers, just people to talk to. So you're not just
Yeah.
constantly obsessing over this business.
No, yeah, it is actually very lonely. Um, I'm I'm lucky. Is in the WeWork where I work. About a year ago now, I met a friend Corey. He might be watching this. Um, and we were just both we're similar ages, and we both had actually similar backgrounds in terms of the businesses that we've had, and we're just good friends. And we work together, and uh, a lot of times every like 3 weeks, we always meet. Whatever, just entrepreneurial cycle. And he's like, dude,
Yeah,
these highs are so high and these lows are so low. And I'm like, yeah, man, same. Like it's
yeah.
like socializing is important. Um, to add to your point, what I've noticed and what I feel is entrepreneurs, like founders, anyone who's running their own company, they kind of operate on the edges of society. So for me personally, and I've heard this with a lot of other people, Friday at 5 p.m. is like the best time to work because the whole world, most people are employees. The whole world is out and about. They're going to have fun. And you, an entrepreneur, you're like, okay, I have some room to breathe. I can plan for next week's, and that you're missing out on a lot of socializing. So uh,
Yeah, yeah.
you got to build out too.
Yeah, and, like, and, you also have people in your life who are like, "Oh, you started your own business. Oh, could you sponsor this? This is 15,000." And it's like, "No, we're not there yet. If I had 15,000 to spend, it wouldn't be on this. It would be on, like, Meta ads or something like that." Like,
Yeah.
people who are like, "Oh, it's instant success," or like, "Oh, you started your own business." I'm like, "No, you feel like a failure someday." And no, it doesn't mean that I'm immediately rich.
Yeah,
Actually,
no,
exactly the opposite. Yeah.
yeah. The money part's also hard to dice up or share with people because you go like 3 months with no sales, and then like 1 month you get one big order and it's like 30 grand. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you tell someone like, yeah, man, we just got like a $30,000 order. And if it's someone who's not a business owner, they're gonna be like, oh, you got 30 grand all at once. It's like, no, man,
No.
woman, I worked for the last 3 months on $0 to have the privilege of getting this money.
And you're not gonna see that check for 30,000 for, like, 60 days. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, yeah, discussing money and finances, it's a whole different like ball game. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just part of it. Like
Yeah.
there's no HR.
Exactly.
Like you have to defend yourself. You have to you have to be honest. But I don't know. It's part of the privilege of doing it. And I like it. I don't know. I think what's me.
Yeah, yeah, I like that word where you say it's a privilege, because it is. And it's being, lucky that you get this chance.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a, we'll end it soon, but there's a good book I listened to a while ago called Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know him. He's a
Oh, I've
modern day
heard of it. I
philosopher.
haven't read it. Yeah.
It's a good book. The premise of it is leaders like in the Marine Corps or the military, the commander of the branch or however it's structured always eats last, and they let the people in the unit eat first. But they're privileged, the commander, the person who's running the unit, that they're privileged with having an office, with having air conditioning, with having like maybe like better food every third Thursday or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But they get this privilege because they're sacrificing a lot for their team, and it's a good book on like leadership and like dicing things. A lot of it you can apply to building a business.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've had somebody recommend that before. It's probably for all I know, it's on my Kindle that I need to charge because I need to read more. But I just wrote that down because like as a good reminder, because somebody recommends things twice, and it's like probably pretty serious.
Yeah, yeah, but I feel that. Do you have any finishing thoughts, closing thoughts you want to share with people? Anything?
No, no, I think I've been rambling for like 20 minutes too. I guess it is. So thank you.
It's all good. I took notes. I think 45 minutes is a pretty good time. Um,
Yeah,
I'll cut the interview and then we can do like a debrief and you know we'll do that. So
sound,
yeah.
sounds good.
All right, I'll stop it right now.